Hello and welcome to another episode of the Contractor Growth Show. This is Mark, and today I have the pleasure of talking with Andy Moya at Moya Painting and Decorating in Sacramento. Hey, Andy, thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, fantastic. So I saw that you guys have been in business just a few years. Looks like things are going great, though. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about the business, kind of the history of it, how you got into it, and where you guys are at right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, Kind of the roots of our company have been with my dad. I mean, he started, painting about, a little bit over 30 years ago, and he's always been in the industry. He's been with one company, for almost those 30 years, and so I got into that business with my dad because of all the experience he had, and so yeah, he's known so much about the industry, and I was able to work with him on the weekends and all that stuff. I actually got to go to college, play collegiate soccer, and then when it was time to kind of hang up the boots, I decided to go into an industry where I might have an advantage and an edge. And so yeah, I kind of got into this business knowing that I was going to have the productivity side. I was really confident with that. And, it's just about, now growing a business and kind of doing it our own.
I love it. Does your dad work with you at all, or does he have a
Yeah.
totally owned company?
No, he's a partner with us, and yeah, we work
Oh,
with
okay.
him, and we've been slowly been able to, kind of. I always relate everything to sports, and for me, it's been a slow process to recruit the right prospects, and sometimes some people come and go, but we want to fit people that fit our mindset. So yeah,
I love it. How many people do you have on your team right now?
right now we have 6 people, 6 workers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic.
Yeah.
And do you guys ever kind of scale up and down at all? Do you have any kind of subs that come along or kind of temporary crew? Or is it
Yeah. I
pretty?
mean, yeah. Well, I think what I've known kind of to do is network with, with a lot of people. So sometimes when some big things come up, we can also get workers, but also, just being in the industry, knowing a lot of people in our family that do basically all the trades, it's a little bit easier to get connected that way.
Uh huh. Interesting. What has worked for you to grow the business? I mean, you've got a website. You've got some presence around online. Is it mostly word of mouth, or how have you gotten jobs?
Yeah, a big part of it has basically been, personally me being able to connect with people, with contractors, with businesses, and basically, yeah, word of mouth. I've definitely tried some of the advertising route, but a huge chunk of our work has been word of mouth, and me being able to sell it to the customer, and then performing and doing what I say I'm going to do.
I love it. And do you guys? I mean, do you quote mostly jobs, or do you only quote jobs? Or do you also do like time and materials? How does that work for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, for painting is a little bit, it's a little different, right? Because you could have the same square footage, but sometimes there's a lot more detail, that the customer want. It could be multiple colors. So for us personally, we have a little productivity rate that we kind of go off of. So if we're gonna do something simple, we kind of already have kind of a rate we go with, and then anything additional, we try to add those up, and so yeah, that's kind of how we quote, and I think everybody's process is different, and so I think based on that process is what I would recommend to quote your jobs.
Okay, cool. So, just curious about your sales process, just how it goes. It sounds like it's mostly word of mouth. I mean, if somebody contacts you and says, "Hey, I heard about you guys. That you do great work, and I've got, house that I want to have painted over here in Sacramento. I mean, first of all, do you guys do, is it all residential or do you guys do commercial as well?
We do commercial as well, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we do both sides, and right now, because we're still, a couple years in, I'm trying to figure out what's going to be the, probably the most efficient for us, the most profitable. And so we're still trying to tie down those jobs where we know that we could crush, we could, profit a good amount. But in painting, sometimes it balance. Sometimes you do some residentials that take a little bit longer, and then that kind of balances out with some commercials that are quicker, and you kind of get in and out.
Yeah. Do you prefer commercial over residential? A lot of folks we talk to, they prefer it actually because they're not dealing with homeowners, and it's kind of got the
Yeah.
timelines usually a little more specific and direct, a little less emotional.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's everything. For me, everything has an upside and a downside, right? The commercial part, profitability wise, is probably the best route.
Mm.
But as far as craftsmanship, it's I would say maybe for the workers, it's more boring. There's less of a challenge for myself as well to, get a job done as opposed to, a custom house. You have custom cabinets, you have shiplap, a bunch of detail staining, all that kind of stuff that sometimes is a little bit more enjoyable when you're out there.
Huh. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So if somebody does want their house repainted, maybe interior and exterior, they heard about you guys, great company, whatnot, referral. What is going to be your sales process? Just curious, like how this kind of works for you as a painter. I mean, there's a quote, is there some going back and forth in many cases? What does that whole process entail doing sales for a job for you?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is making sure we go out there and we meet the customer and we show face, and then we also walk the job with the customers, and for me the biggest thing kind of with our sales process is being as detailed as possible with our quote, with what the customer wants, and just be clear on kind of every aspect to kind of prevent any future problems. So yeah, I try to, I'll go to the customer house, for example, for a residential, say it's an exterior. I'll walk with the customer. I'll see if there's anything that I see that the customer may not be able to notice, or I give them a few options. I try to limit the options I give them as far as the product we can use, and also the amount of prep we can do. And then after that, I follow up with them with a email. We do credit card payments, which sometimes folks appreciate, and so yeah, I send them a quote. If they're with it, sometimes I'll rewalk the house with the customer just to kind of double check everything on the list is good, and then from there we sign the contract and we get going.
Love it. Do you get paid ahead of time for the jobs? Do you guys like do half down or
We
half when
do
it's
like
complete?
10. Yeah, we'll do 10% when it's like above $8,000 to $10,000 jobs.
Okay.
If it's something below, we tend to just kind of guarantee the customer, hey, once we're done with the job, you can pay us after. It always depends on, sometimes when it's somebody that we know well, that we do that. Sometimes when it's something a completely different customer we don't really know, that's when we pull we require more of a down payment.
Okay. We've talked to some companies. They have a problem with getting paid the balance once the work is done, right? I mean, people kind of string them along and say, "Well, checks in the mail, or and get you paid next month or whatever." Do you guys ever deal with that? And if you do, how do you solve for that?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think um, so we're still kind of working on some of the policies we want to kind of imply as far as like late payment fees and all that stuff. But for kind of to answer your question is, there's been maybe a few contractors that are a little bit delayed on the payment. But as far as homeowners, we've never really had an issue with them. Usually,
Mm.
we get the job done and we walk it with them, and then they might, with painting, things can always happen. So we do ourselves a checkup for any touch ups that we need to be doing, and then at the end we'll go with the customer and we'll see if there's anything they might want to change. Right before we start kind of putting everything away, we'll do a full walkthrough, and then once they basically say, hey, everything looks good to me, then we basically from there we close out, and there's no issues usually for us.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you think that regarding like growth of the company, our listeners are always curious about how to grow their own company. Do you have any tips on what you guys have done? I mean, I know it's been mostly word of mouth. That probably has a lot to do with just doing a great job for your
Yeah.
customers. But what are some tips that you have for how to grow a contractor business or a painting business for some listeners?
Yeah, no, I think a good way is finding a direction you want to go, and then starting to kind of do a little bit of research in your area. I mean, for me, it was so I basically got to start talking with contractors around the area, and at first it was kind of like, hey, I gotta maybe charge a little bit less so that we can have a chance to do the job, and then once contractors can understand what we're about, then hopefully they give us more opportunities. But that's kind of what it's been for me, is hey,
Mm,
like, let's try to expand, let's try to give a deal where we can, and then from there then we start building a bigger clientele, and also where we can be like, hey, like, this isn't this isn't our price range, no problem, we can go somewhere else. So that's been a way for me to grow my business. Another one is commercial. There's right now Sacramento is growing a lot. There's a lot going on, and so also for me, separating, like in sports, I always use it, how can you separate yourself in sports, how can you be better? Same thing in the painting industry. For me, I think a route to what I'm actually doing is I'm trying to get more licenses, more certifications,
mm,
kind of put in separate myself as far as having also, um, yeah, like more insurances that higher quality jobs will require, or bigger jobs will require. I think
mm.
that's a really good way to kind of separate yourself, and maybe compete less with other painters, right? Because there's a lot of residential. It's a little bit easier to get into residential to get to the commercial part, but you also have to have a lot of working capital to start getting into those big jobs.
Oh, okay. Huh. Okay, great. I love it. So, some helpful tips here. So, you started by going and talking with contractors in the area and kind of
Yep.
learning what is out there, what maybe a need is in the marketplace. You came in kind of at a lower price to start and said, maybe paying my dues over here a little bit. I want to get on these guys' radar. I want to get selected for some of these bids if you're
Yeah.
actually doing bids, quotes, and kind of build up from there. And then you're also doing some extra certain licenses and certifications. So some jobs that are higher level, including even residential, which requires more equipment, you're
Yeah.
looking at taking on some of those higher paying jobs, better, maybe more technical. And for those, you're going to need some more licenses certifications. And so you're approaching those to be able to do that work in the future.
Yes.
I love it. I love it. Fantastic. I mean, do you think that you guys are going to grow in the next few years? Is that what the plan is? Or are you guys kind of at the sweet spot of growth at the size of the company it is now?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I always try to ask and learn just from contractors that have been in the business for a long time, and of all trades, and of all sizes of companies. And so I think from what I'm learning is, I think I'm the bigger the company, sometimes the bigger the headache, and sometimes the juice isn't worth the squeeze.
Right.
And I do like right now that I could have a little bit more control of a smaller company. You know, I'm definitely right now open to explore different possibilities. Definitely growing, maybe a little bit more. But as far as having, you know, a big crew, it's not what I'm leaning towards right now.
Sure. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, Andy, if folks are in Sacramento, if they're looking for a painter, interior, exterior, or commercial, and they want to work with a tight crew that knows what they're doing, it's got 30 years experience, they want to get in touch, or they just want to learn more about what you guys are up to or talk to you about some of your other experience, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of our biggest kind of platforms is our Instagram page at Moya.painting. And you can find us there where we're sharing, you know, a lot of content, a lot of different work that we're doing.
Okay.
And you can find us our websites there. The contact information's there. And also on our website at Moya Painting and Decorating, you could schedule an appointment with us online and find us there.
Okay, perfect. So that's Instagram, Moya.painting. So that's Moya.painting. And then the website is also Moya, Moya, Moya Painting and Decorating.com.
Yes.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, Andy. Well, these are some great tips here, man. I took some notes. I love your ideas about how to grow the business. These are excellent. We're gonna kind of look into these a little bit more and kind of explore these. I hope that our listeners get a lot of value out of this. Really appreciate you being on the show today.
Yeah. Thank you guys.